At 68, Hasan had always lived an active and fulfilling life. He had worked as an architect, traveled to places he had dreamed of, and enjoyed spending time with his family. But as the years passed, something changed. He began to feel the weight of his age more and more each day. Simple tasks, like climbing the stairs or even getting out of bed, started to feel like monumental challenges. His energy, once boundless, was now fleeting, and he began to wonder if this was simply a part of growing old. One morning, as he sat at the kitchen table sipping his coffee, he caught sight of himself in the reflection of the window. His face, once vibrant and full of life, now showed signs of exhaustion and neglect. The lines etched on his face told the story of a man who had stopped paying attention to himself. His body, once a source of pride, now seemed to be betraying him. It was then that a sudden thought struck him. Had he really given up on himself? Hassan's children had all grown up and moved away. His wife, Aishi, had passed 2 years ago, leaving him to face the quiet of his home alone. His once active routine had been replaced with long hours spent on the couch, watching television or scrolling aimlessly through social media. The outside world felt distant, and he felt disconnected from it. He realized in that moment that he had allowed his life to become stagnant. But it didn't have to be this way. With this realization, Hasan made a decision. He would take control of his life again. But the question was, where to start? He didn't want to simply go back to his old routine. He wanted to transform his life, to find a way to feel alive again. That afternoon, as Hasan sat in the park near his home, watching the people pass by, he saw something that stirred something deep inside him. A group of elderly people were walking briskly, chatting and laughing with each other, full of life and energy. They moved with purpose, and their smiles were contagious. One of them, an old man with silver hair, was holding a yoga mat, looking like he was heading to a class. Hasan watched them for a moment longer, a mixture of admiration and disbelief running through him. How could they move with so much energy? They're older than me. A voice interrupted his thoughts. You look like you're deep in thought, my friend, a woman said, sitting beside him. She was in her late 60s, with a bright smile and an aura of positivity. I often come here to clear my mind, too. Hasan smiled politely. I was just wondering how people stay so active as they get older. The woman chuckled. It's all about habits, dear. What you do today shapes how you'll feel tomorrow. But most people don't realize that until it's too late. Her words hit him like a lightning bolt. He had always been active earlier in life, but now it seemed he had forgotten the power of small, daily habits. If these people could stay this vibrant, maybe I could too. The woman continued. There are 5 simple habits that can truly transform your life, especially as you get older. If you're ready to change, I can share them with you. Hasan listened intently as the woman began to explain the first of the 5 habits. Moving every day. You don't need to run marathons, she said, but moving your body, whether it's walking, yoga, or stretching, will make all the difference. Hasan had always thought that physical activity was only for the young or the athletic, but now he realized that movement was the key to vitality at any age. The woman explained that when we stop moving, our bodies begin to lose strength, flexibility, and endurance, and that's when the problems start. Regular movement was not just for fitness, it was essential for maintaining energy, muscle mass, and overall health as we age. Hasan was skeptical at first. Could something as simple as walking every day really change how I feel? But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that his body was calling for more activity. He hadn't walked much lately, and his stiffness in the mornings was proof enough that he had been neglecting this simple habit. "I'll give it a try," Hasan said, standing up and brushing the dirt off his pants. "I'll start walking every morning." The woman smiled. "It's a small step, but it's a powerful one. You'll see the difference soon enough." Hasan woke up early the next day, determined to stick to his new morning walk. He pulled on his sneakers, stepped outside, and felt the cool morning air against his skin. As he walked through the park, he could already feel a slight difference, a sense of lightness that hadn't been there before. The morning sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over the world around him, and for the first time in a while, Hasan felt hopeful. The walk wasn't long, just a short loop around the park, but it was enough to get his blood flowing and his mind clear. He couldn't deny that it felt good. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Hasan promised himself that he would walk every day from now on, just as the woman had advised. Later that day, while preparing lunch, Hasan found himself reflecting on the second habit the woman had shared: nourishing his body with good food. He had always thought of himself as someone who ate pretty well. Meals were simple but hearty. But recently, with his busy life slowing down, he had found himself eating less and less nutritious food. Takeout, frozen meals, and snacks had replaced the balanced meals he used to enjoy with his family. "I'm not getting any younger," he muttered to himself as he chopped vegetables for a salad. He realized that his eating habits had slowly spiraled into something less healthy. If he wanted to truly change his life, food was a huge part of the equation. The woman had spoken about the importance of eating fresh, whole foods: fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats. She had also emphasized the importance of staying hydrated. Simple, clean meals could help maintain energy levels, reduce inflammation, and even improve mental clarity. Hasan spent the next few days trying to improve his diet. He started cooking more at home: fresh salads, grilled fish, and whole grains. Every meal was an opportunity to nourish his body, and he began to notice small changes in how he felt. He had more energy throughout the day and slept better at night. Even his skin seemed to glow with renewed vitality. The following week, Hasan was feeling better than he had in a long time. He was sticking to his daily walks, eating healthier meals, and getting more rest. But there was still something missing. His body felt stronger, but his mind, he realized, hadn't been engaged in a long time. He had always been a curious person, someone who loved to learn new things, but he had fallen into the habit of watching television or reading the same old newspapers, never challenging himself mentally. The woman had told him that in order to maintain mental health and sharpness, it was essential to engage his mind every day. Whether it was solving puzzles, reading challenging books, or even learning a new skill, keeping his mind active was just as important as moving his body. One evening, Hasan picked up an old book on photography that had been collecting dust on his shelf. He had always been interested in photography when he was younger, but never had the time to pursue it seriously. Now, with more free time, he decided to give it a try. He picked up his camera, took it outside, and began experimenting with shots of the trees and the park that had become his daily walking route. The more he explored photography, the more he realized how much he had missed challenging his mind. Learning about light, composition, and technique was exhilarating. His photography hobby was a way for him to rediscover his creativity, and it made him feel more alive. Hasan also started doing crossword puzzles every morning after breakfast, just as the woman had recommended. It wasn't long before he found himself feeling sharper, more focused, and more curious about the world around him. He didn't need to rely on distractions anymore. Engaging his mind daily had given him a renewed sense of purpose and excitement. The days passed, and Hasan was feeling better, both physically and mentally. But there was one more habit the woman had mentioned that he hadn't fully embraced yet: staying socially connected. It was something he hadn't realized was so important until now. After Aishi's passing, he had distanced himself from his old friends, thinking that he was too old to make new connections or that it was easier to be alone. But now, with his renewed sense of purpose, Hasan realized how much he missed human connection. He decided to take a step toward re-engaging with the world around him. One morning, he called his old friend Mehmet, who he hadn't spoken to in years. They used to play cards together every week, but as life had gotten busier, they had lost touch. To his surprise, Mehmet was thrilled to hear from him. The two old friends met at a cafe a few days later, and their conversation flowed effortlessly. They reminisced about the past, laughed about old memories, and shared stories about their lives since they last saw each other. Hasan felt a warmth in his chest that he hadn't felt in years. It was as if reconnecting with Mehmet had reignited a spark within him. From that day on, Hasan made it a point to reach out to old friends, join social groups, and spend more time with his family. He learned that social connections were vital, not just for his emotional well-being, but for his physical health as well. Laughter, companionship, and even simple conversations were essential for staying young at heart. With each passing day, Hasan found himself feeling more alive, more connected, and more at peace. His morning walks, healthy eating habits, mental engagement, and social connections had transformed his physical and emotional well-being. But there was one more habit the woman had mentioned that Hasan hadn't fully embraced yet: gratitude. At first, Hasan wasn't sure how gratitude could be a habit. It seemed like a simple feeling, something that came and went. But the woman had explained that practicing gratitude regularly could have a profound impact on mental health and overall happiness. She told him that taking time each day to reflect on what he was grateful for could help shift his perspective, bringing more joy and positivity into his life. Hasan decided to try it. Each evening before bed, he would sit quietly, close his eyes, and reflect on the day. What had gone well? What moments had brought him joy? It didn't take long before he began to notice subtle shifts in his outlook. The small, seemingly insignificant things, like a conversation with a neighbor, a delicious cup of coffee, or the way the sunlight streamed through his window in the morning, started to feel more meaningful. Hasan kept a gratitude journal by his bedside, jotting down at least 3 things he was thankful for each day. At first, it was a challenge to find those moments, but as time went on, it became easier. The more he practiced gratitude, the more he began to see beauty in the world around him. He found himself waking up with a smile, eager to face the day ahead. The habit of gratitude had given him a new perspective on life, one that was filled with appreciation, wonder, and joy, even in his later years. Several months had passed since Hasan began making these small but powerful changes in his life. His mornings were no longer filled with a sense of dread or fatigue. Instead, he looked forward to each new day with excitement and purpose. His body was stronger, his mind sharper, and his heart more open than ever before. He had become a man who was truly living, not merely existing. Hasan's friends noticed the transformation as well. They commented on how much more energetic he seemed, how his eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "What's your secret, Hasan?" they asked, almost in disbelief. "It's not a secret," he would smile. "It's simply a matter of taking small steps every day. Movement, good food, engaging my mind, connecting with others, and most importantly, practicing gratitude. It's changed my life. And it truly had. Hasan felt younger than he had in years, not just in body, but in spirit. His life, once defined by loss and loneliness, had been reinvigorated by the habits he had adopted. Every day was a new opportunity to experience joy, learn something new, and connect with the world around him. But it wasn't just about the physical changes. Hasan had discovered a new kind of freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from regret, and freedom to live his life on his own terms. He wasn't waiting for life to come to him anymore. He was actively creating the life he wanted. One afternoon, as Hasan sat in his favorite cafe with a group of friends, he realized that his story wasn't just his own anymore. He had transformed his life, and now he wanted to share what he had learned with others, especially those who felt like he had once felt, stuck, overwhelmed, and disconnected from the world. Hasan began giving talks at local community centers and senior groups, sharing his journey and the 5 habits that had helped him reclaim his life. He spoke with passion about the power of small, daily habits, about how movement, nourishing food, mental stimulation, social connections, and gratitude had changed the way he viewed himself and his future. At first, some people were skeptical. They had lived their lives a certain way for decades, and the idea of making such changes seemed overwhelming. But Hasan's sincerity, along with the visible transformation in his own life, convinced them. Slowly, others began to adopt the habits he had shared, and they, too, began to feel the positive effects. He received letters from people, thanking him for inspiring them to make changes in their own lives. Some of them wrote about how they had started walking every day, how they had reconnected with old friends, or how they had begun to express gratitude for the small moments in life. The ripple effect of Hasan's journey had touched many lives, and it filled him with pride and joy. Years later, Hasan found himself in a place he never thought he'd reach: contentment. He had seen his children grow, had witnessed the joy of becoming a grandfather, and had experienced the peace that came from living life authentically. He had fully embraced his golden years, not with resignation, but with excitement and energy. He continued his daily walks, his gratitude journal, his hobbies, and most importantly, his relationships. Hasan had built a life that was rich in love, learning, and joy. He was surrounded by friends, family, and a community that appreciated him not for his age, but for the wisdom he had shared. One evening, as he sat on his balcony, watching the sunset with a cup of tea in hand, he reflected on everything he had achieved. "I never imagined life could be this beautiful at my age," he thought. "I'm living the life I always wanted, but never thought I could have." Hasan knew that the secret wasn't in finding some magical solution, but in adopting habits that nurtured his body, mind, and spirit. He had discovered that life doesn't end when we grow older. It's simply another chapter, one filled with endless possibilities. Hasan's journey shows us that age is just a number. It doesn't determine how we live, but how we choose to live each day. His story is a reminder that no matter where we are in life, we always have the power to change, to grow, and to rediscover ourselves. The 5 habits that Hasan embraced weren't just about physical health. They were about mental clarity, emotional well-being, and ultimately, finding joy in the simple moments. Movement, good nutrition, mental engagement, social connections, and gratitude can transform our lives in ways we never imagined. For anyone feeling stuck or disconnected, Hasan's journey proves that it's never too late to make a change. Every day is an opportunity to start anew, to embrace a new chapter, and to live a life full of purpose, happiness, and connection. No matter your age, you hold the key to your own freedom, vitality, and joy. Remember, life is meant to be lived fully, and every day holds the potential for a fresh start. So, take the first step. Embrace these simple habits and start living the life you deserve. Thank you for joining us on this journey with Hasan. May his story inspire you to make small changes that will lead to big transformations in your own life.